Hello everyone, welcome back to AJ's Movie Place. Welcome back to another episode of AJ's Ranking Again. So I've got another ranking video for you today, and this time I'm going to be looking at all the 6 James Bond actors and ranking them from worst to best, in my opinion. And it is only my opinion, the list isn't correct. It's just what I like, what I don't like, this sort of thing. I'll give you my reasons behind it and all this sort of thing. So, yeah, everyone's list is going to be different, and that's what makes these sort of things interesting. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode of AJ's Ranking Again. Okay, so yeah, this is the 7th episode. I do this weekly on a Monday evening at 6 p.m. I release a new ranking video. Yeah, so you can check out the older ones if you so wish. If you want to leave me a comment afterwards, please feel free to do so. And like I said, why not hit that subscribe button, which is just down below the screen. Yeah, so we've got a new James Bond film just around the corner. Daniel Craig's farewell outing. He said that after making every one, I believe. There you go. But yeah, so this is his last one. So I thought, why not take a look at these actors that have portrayed the character of James Bond, and I'll tell you my thoughts on them. I'm looking at the 6 actors in the main continuity or in the main film series. I'm not talking about the original Casino Royale film or anything like that that was made prior to these James Bond films. Just the stuff within context of the broccoli stuff. Yeah, so let's get into it. So yes, number 6. Okay, this is my least favourite James Bond, and probably a surprise to nobody. It's George Lazenby, or George Lazenby. He made one James Bond film in 1969. He came off the back of Sean Connery, although Sean Connery did return to the role for one film after him, so it kind of broke Sean Connery's continuity. Now, George Lazenby was an Australian model. He wasn't an actor, but they felt he was right for the role. I'm not going to knock the film, because the film that he made on Her Majesty's Secret Service is a very good James Bond film, a highly underrated James Bond film, and in my opinion it's quite high as Bond films go. But George Lazenby he felt like he was coming across doing a Sean Connery, trying to portray the character as he would. He wasn't really given... He was turned into a joke in the way he was dressed and all this sort of thing. It just wasn't very good. He's not very likeable in the role. There's not much more I can really say about the guy apart from he just didn't work for me, but the film did. So yeah, number 6 goes to George Lazenby. I can't say nothing more about him. Number 5 spot, Roger Moore. Now, he portrayed James Bond between 1973 and 1985, and he's got the longest tenure of playing James Bond. He made 6 films. Sean Connery made 7 films. Sean Connery made 6 films, but 7 if you include Never Say Never Again, which isn't part of the main James Bond continuity. Sean Connery did do 8 if you want to include The Rock. If you're one of these people who think that The Rock is a James Bond film, your argument's good. Anyway, so Roger Moore, 7 films, 1973 to 1985. Now, with the Roger Moore films, this is the James Bond that I grew up on. This was my era of James Bond. It was very sort of camp. It was very jokey. Roger Moore had a very playful way about him. And to be honest, he was kept around in a role for way too long. He became way too old. And he was hitting on these younger girls. It looks a bit creepy, this sort of stuff in the latter films. Yeah, he'd done too many. He was kept around too long. I didn't mind Roger Moore. Some of his films were very good, but they were inconsistent tonally. Like I said, they were going for this sort of vibe. And some of them, like you had Moonraker, which is influenced by Star Wars and this sort of thing, they got a bit silly, a bit stupid, a bit over the top. which is a reoccurring theme. Well, ain't reoccurring, but it did happen again. So for my fifth spot, I would put Roger Moore. Now dropping down into fourth, 1995-2002, Pierce Brosnan. Now, I really like Pierce Brosnan. I think he's fantastic as James Bond, and I think GoldenEye is a fantastic film, up there as a very high James Bond film, and one that I revisit a lot. Pierce Brosnan had the look about him, he had the swagger, he was pretty damn good as a James Bond, but he was let down by the material that he had after that first film. He done 4 films in that time period, in those 7 years. Yeah, to different degrees of success. The first one, like I said, was very good. The 3 following, not so much, quite forgettable. The last of his was extremely silly, with invisible cars and riding tidal waves and all this sort of thing. So Pierce Brosnan started off quite well, and then he was turned into a joke as well. They become more jokey and unbelievable in a sense. Yeah, so he's my 4th spot. Now, in 3rd spot, I'm probably going to upset a lot of people, is Sean Connery. Now, Sean Connery was fantastic as James Bond. He's a fantastic actor. He done 6 James Bond films within this series of films, like I said, between 1962 and 1971, with a break in 69 for the George Lazenby film. But Sean Connery, he wasn't the James Bond that I grew up on, so, you know, they're older films for me. They're films that he wasn't my James Bond. So he's very good, don't get me wrong. You know, I think his films are fantastic. I think he's fantastic in the role. I think he's fantastic outside of James Bond, probably the best actor on this list outside of James Bond. But for me, it's just to do with that age thing, as in like when the age I was and growing up. I find the Sean Connery ones a bit dated and a bit hard to get into, and always have. So thusly, for that reason, I drop him into spot number 3. In number 2, with 5 movies from 2006 to present, is Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig's very good. He does play a very good James Bond, more in line with the Bourne sort of films, that sort of take on James Bond. I didn't initially like the casting, because I didn't like Daniel Craig very much as an actor prior to this, but when I saw Casino Royale, I was blown away. And Skyfall was a fantastic addition as well. Very, very strong James Bond film. Quantum of Solace, obviously not a very good James Bond film, in that it suffered the writer's strikes and all that at the time. So, but it's a unique film in that it's a direct sequel to Casino Royale, so it's very interesting in that respect. And Daniel Craig brings his roughness to the role. It's James Bond in like the beginning of his career in the films. Yeah, he was quite damn good. Don't get me wrong, he was very good. Obviously yet to see his 5th film. But at the moment he's sort of a hit and miss, in that he has 2 good films, 2 bad films, sort of 50-50 split on this film. We'll see how this last one goes. So Daniel Craig, I do enjoy his performance. He you know, and I've enjoyed his films. But my number 1 spot goes to Timothy Dalton. Now I think Timothy Dalton is the closest to James Bond in how I know him to be in the books. He's a lot more grounded and a lot more or down to earth type of James Bond, a rougher James Bond. He done 2 films between 1987 and 1989, Living Daylights and License to Kill. I love both films. I love The License to Kill, and I love Timothy Dalton's performance within these films. It's unfortunate what happened with Timothy Dalton, because Timothy Dalton's portrayal of James Bond was too soon. It was what he delivered as James Bond is what you're getting now with Daniel Craig. Only audiences weren't ready for this darker, edgier side to James Bond. So Timothy Dalton never got the love and respect that he actually deserved in this role. I'd love to have seen a few more films with him in, but things happened and it wasn't meant to be. However, I'm left with two of my favourite James Bond films. Licence to Kill probably being one of the James Bond films, that and GoldenEye being the two films that I probably revisit the most within James Bond. Yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate. I believe that people now are coming to realise that Timothy Dalton was actually an extremely good James Bond. It's one of those things that over time where the perception has changed and people have actually taken a step back and thought, do you know what? He's actually really good. Yeah, he's a very good James Bond James Bond actor, sorry, as a character, you know, my favourite actor playing that character. So yeah, so that's my list. From top to bottom, worst to best. 6th place, George Lazenby, followed by Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Connery, Craig, and number 1, Timothy Dalton. The best James Bond with the best James Bond film, Licence to Kill. So I'm going to leave it there. That's my list. I'm not going to go any further. Just a quick one for you, given that James Bond is coming out soon. So anyway, like I said, if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you think, how you would rank the actors. Like I said, my list isn't the right list, it's my opinion, that's all it is. And that's correct for me, not correct for you. I know a lot of people would put Sean Connery in the first place, and I feel that a lot of people say Sean Connery because they feel that they have to say Sean Connery because he was the character that kicked it all off, and I feel that they just don't want the flack of saying, well, actually no, he's not, he wasn't my James Bond. It's much like with Doctor Who, you know, you've got your Doctor, who was the Doctor that you, and it's much the same with James Bond. People are going to be much the same. There's been so many actors to play him, 6 actors across the span of you know, half a century, that you're going to have your go-to Bond guy, the one that you grew up with, the one that you visited. Although the one I grew up with was Roger Moore, not my favourite, one of my least favourite James Bonds. But yeah, Timothy Dalton, for me, number 1, fantastic. Anyway, this is AJ, I'm getting away, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care all, goodbye.